I'm freezing. Let me in, I beg. I'll reward you. The promises of the poor Apache woman. The words echoed in Mateo's mind long after the wind had swallowed them. Scene 1 began on that night, though no one in the village would put it into words until far later, when stories could be told without trembling. Mateo had been returning from the canyon ridge with a sack of juniper wood slung over his shoulder. He was the sort of man who moved with quiet certainty, never one to startle or speak loudly, but the desert night had a way of prying at nerves. The wind came down in thin, icy ribbons from the mountains, strange for late spring, and he trudged along the moonlit path, listening to the crunch of frost forming on what should have been warm earth. As he neared the outskirts of the village, he saw her. A woman standing beside the shadowed edge of an abandoned adobe storehouse, wrapped in nothing but a threadbare shawl. Her hair was long and dark, strands blown across her face. Her posture was stiff with cold, arms folded as though holding herself together. Mateo hesitated. Travelers occasionally passed through, but this woman did not look like one. Her clothes were old, older than fashion, older than modern stitching. They looked handwoven, patterned with faint geometric shapes worn by time, and the shawl draped around her shoulders shimmered faintly under the moon as though dusted with frost or stars. When she saw him, she stepped forward and spoke with a voice thin as brittle clay but filled with something urgent. I'm freezing. Let me in, I beg. I'll reward you. Mateo blinked. Are you hurt? You shouldn't be out here dressed like that. She took another step, her feet bare against the frost. Please. The cold takes more from me than you know. Her eyes were dark, impossibly deep, like wells cut into the night. Let me in. He pulled his cloak off and moved to wrap it around her shoulders, but she drew back. Not your cloak, she whispered. Shelter. She pointed toward the cluster of adobe homes where most villagers would already be asleep. A fire. A corner. I ask only for a place where the frost cannot touch me. Something about her made Mateo's skin prickle. Perhaps it was the way her breath didn't fog in the cold air, or the way the frost on the ground nearest to her seemed thicker, almost glassy, as if her presence fed it. But she looked human, cold, fragile, desperate. And she had asked for help. Mateo had been raised to honor that. My house is near, he said gently. Come. You can warm yourself. After that, if you need medicine or clothing, I'll find. She shook her head violently. Only warmth. Only shelter. Only until the sun rises. Her insistence unsettled him, but he nodded and motioned for her to follow. As he walked, he heard nothing behind him, not a footstep, not a shuffle. When he glanced back, she was there, moving lightly, as if she barely touched the earth at all. The air seemed to grow colder around them, though the moon looked the same and the stars glittered with distant indifference. Mateo's home was small, one room, thick adobe walls, a hearth that still held embers from earlier in the night. He pushed open the door and stepped aside. Come in. Warm yourself. She crossed the threshold with hesitation, almost like someone stepping onto sacred land. The moment she entered, the temperature dropped sharply, the embers hissed and dimmed before flaring again. Mateo rubbed his arms. I'll get the fire going. No, she whispered. Not too hot. Warm enough that the frost cannot take me, but not so hot that it burns away what I am. He didn't know what that meant, but he crouched and coaxed the embers to life, adding kindling until a soft, steady flame glowed. She sat beside it, holding her hands out. The fire did not behave normally. It flickered blue around her palms, as though confused by her presence. Her shivers slowed. Her eyes softened. You have a gentle spirit, she murmured. Few would have opened their door. Mateo sat across from her. What brought you out there? Are you from the reservation to the north? She laughed faintly, the sound like cracking ice. I am older than that land claim. Older than the fences they put around what was already ours. I am from a time when winters were a part of us, and yet I am no longer welcomed by them. Her strange words tightened something in his chest. Are you saying you're a story? He asked quietly. She looked at him, eyes reflecting the firelight like still water. I am what is left when a story is forgotten. When a name is spoken only in mockery or misunderstanding. I am the one who walked the winter trails with my people, guiding them through storms. But when the old ways faded, so did I, until only the cold remembered me. Mateo swallowed hard. And now? She touched her chest, where her heart would be. Now the cold no longer wants me. I wander. I freeze. I beg. Her voice trembled, and for the first time she seemed not eerie but profoundly sad. But you let me in. And for that, you shall have the reward I offered. Mateo shook his head. I didn't do it for a reward. Yet you will receive it. She extended her hand. At first he recoiled, uncertain, but something compelled him. He placed his hand in hers. It was cold, painfully so, but beneath that cold was energy, like distant thunder. She closed her eyes. Mateo felt a rush, a flood of images not his own, mountains blanketed in ancient snow, camps of families huddled around fires, songs sung to guide the winter spirits, a woman walking at the head of a migration trail, whispering to the icy wind to show mercy. He felt her loneliness, her fading, her terror of becoming nothing more than a chill in the air. Then it was gone. She released his hand and she looked warmer, her skin flushed faintly. You have given me what few can, she whispered. A memory. A place to rest for the night. But dawn comes soon. When it does, I must leave, or the sun will burn away what little of me remains. Let me help you, Mateo said, standing. Stay. I'll protect you. She shook her head. Even fire cannot fight the sun for long. But your kindness has given me strength to wander a little longer. And perhaps one day, if my story is told again, I will not wander at all. Scene 2 began with the first pale threads of dawn. The woman stood at the door, her form already losing definition. She looked at Mateo one last time. You remember me now. That is the reward. So long as one memory remains, I am not lost. And so long as I am not lost, neither is the part of your people that walked with the winter spirits. Mateo felt a lump rise in his throat. Will I see you again? Her smile was sorrowful and warm. If the world grows cold enough to need me, or if hearts grow warm enough to welcome me. With that, she stepped outside. Her feet left no prints. The sunlight crept over the horizon, and as it touched her, her outline dissolved into motes of frost, drifting upward like tiny shimmering seeds carried on a breeze. By the time the sun had fully risen, there was nothing left of her but a faint sparkle on the ground. Mateo stood in the doorway long after she vanished, his home still infused with an unnatural cold, but also with a strange peace. And though he never saw her again, on certain winter nights, when the wind whispered across the canyon and frost formed in patterns like woven cloth, he knew she was out there, wandering, surviving, waiting for someone kind enough to let her in again.